silver is the great buying opportunity. Silver is extremely undervalued right now. Hello, Gold Silver family. Alan Hibbert here with another video, and today we are celebrating another all-time high in gold, over $27.50 an ounce. And today, what I thought we would do is go back over some of the previous price predictions about gold and when it would hit $27.50 an ounce, and see what some of the viewers, have said in the comment section below the last time we made a video like this. So in case you haven't seen this video, this comes from back in July of this year. So it was right after the midway of the year. And basically, I walked you guys through a lot of price predictions that were made by some of the big banks, JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman Sachs, UBS. And basically what we found was that the banks consistently estimated low prices for gold for 2024. And that gold actually was outshooting those prices very, very quickly. And so throughout the year, we've seen the banks continuously revise their forecasts higher and higher and higher, and gold keeps taking out those targets. So that was that video back in July. And just as one example, I'm going to highlight UBS in particular and sort of skip the other banks. Gold could hit $2,200 by the end of 2024. I mean, it's funny now because we know what has happened, but that was back in December of last year. And a lot of people found that to be a very reasonable price target. But then, of course, a few months later in April of this year, gold to surge to $2,500 an ounce, UBS predicts. So they increased their forecast. Then again, they boosted their gold price forecast up to $2,600 an ounce. That was roughly a month after the previous increase. And now finally, UBS raises gold target to $27.50 by end of 2024. So this was actually the article that spurred this video right now. I saw this, at some point in the last 30 days because it only happened, less than 30 days ago, UBS predicting $27.50 by the end of the year, but it was less than 30 days until we took out that target. Of course, we could always go backwards, of course. But it is interesting that gold hit this level in less than 30 days instead of 90 days. So moving 3 times as quickly as forecasted. Interesting. So yeah, here I just took the screenshot moments ago, right before the video. Gold is currently at $27.69, so comfortably above $27.50. Silver around 34, and the gold silver ratio around 80. And so some of the comments that you guys had below that video from July, I thought were worth bringing up right now. Someone said, these are the same groups, right, referring to the banks, that predicted that gold will go down to $1,400 an ounce when it was $1,800 an ounce. So those predictions mean nothing. Gold will go up because it has to. How much and when, no one knows. So yeah, I agree with the spirit of this. And by the way, I don't mean to pick on UBS specifically or even the banks generally. It's very hard to predict the price of anything. And of course, hindsight is 2020. So yeah, I agree with the spirit of this. No one knows how much it's going to go up. But when you create dollars a lot faster than you create gold, the price has to adjust. And by the way, one last chart before we get to the other viewer comments. In that video, we naively kind of brainstormed, like, what would the price of gold be at the end of 2024 if its performance in the second half was the same as the first half of the year? So we basically just copied and pasted the price performance. We went nose to tail here. And we said, okay, the second half will look kind of like this, and it'll finish slightly over $2,600 an ounce at the end of the year if the second half looks like the first half. No. Did we think that would happen? No. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anybody thinks that it would just simply repeat. But we said, what if? Okay. And now we have an extra July, August, September, October, 4 months of data. So what did gold actually do? It did this. So it's actually outperformed itself. So gold in the second half of the year has been performing more strongly than it did in the first half of the year, which is very interesting, right? So the yellow line is above the purple line. So could it keep going up? Obviously. Could it come back down and meet the purple line? Of course it could. A lot of options, but this is just for fun. Hopefully you guys just think this is interesting. I certainly do. Okay, back to the comments. $2,600 gold by end of 2024 seems very reasonable. By end of the week, you mean? Oh, burn. Yeah. So if you notice the timestamp here, the original comment was 3 months ago, and then the follow-up was only 1 month ago. So the person replying here had, the benefit of hindsight, an extra 2 months of price data. So yeah, this is just another illustration of how much more quickly the price of gold has been moving than even what gold bugs expect. We will be at 2,500 before the November election and 3,000 by end of the year. That's my guess. Everyone has been way too conservative. Your report shows this. Go, gold, go. Okay, 2,500 before the November election. Okay, the election is 1 week from today, right? So today's Tuesday, October 29th. The election is next week, Tuesday. So we're past 2,500, and we're actually halfway, between these two data points, 2,750. Could we hit 3,000 by end of the year? I mean, of course we could. We're currently on pace, right? If the daily percent gains continue until the end of the year, we'll hit about 2,925. Okay, so shy of 3,000, but reasonably close. So 2,925 by end of the year if that pattern continues. But of course, it could deviate higher or lower. $3,000 an ounce gold. Sounds great, but fewer and fewer of us can afford gold at the current price. Buy smaller denomination coins. Okay, so that's a valid point. If $3,000 an ounce, or just whatever the current price is today, if that's too much for you, you could buy fractional coins. And of course, then you'll pay a smaller amount of currency in any given chunk. However, you will pay more on a per ounce basis, right? The premiums are higher. So you could think of it as, buying a full ounce is like buying in bulk. But then buying a fractional ounce, you're sort of buying at retail, so you're going to pay higher per item. So it is an option. Alternatively, you could buy, InstaVault products, fractional products like that, or you could buy silver, which has been called the poor man's gold. So silver, as we saw a minute ago, around $34 an ounce. It's not the same as gold, obviously, but depending on your perspectives, maybe that's a cheaper substitute. It's up to you. Mike, do you think we'll get another great buying opportunity in the coming months? Well, I didn't get a chance to ask Mike this, but if I had to guess, he would say it's all a great buying opportunity. You're probably referring to a pullback in the price so that it's cheaper, and then before going up again. I'm not sure Mike would have predicted that one way or another, but he also might say silver is the great buying opportunity. Silver is extremely undervalued right now. And to remind you of a screenshot I showed a second ago, silver is only $34 an ounce right now, and the gold silver ratio is over 80. Okay, so silver is well below its all-time high, in contrast to gold, which is making a new all-time high, almost every day, it seems. But silver would have to return about 50%, 50% in order to get back to its previous high of $50, $51, $52. So that could be another year from now, potentially, even if silver did 50% in a year, just to make it to its all-time high. It still would have a lot of room to run after that. And if you look at this gold silver ratio up around 80, it might be hard for some people to wrap their head around, well, what does that mean? Is that high? Is that low? What does that look like? Well, thankfully, I just saw this tweet the other day, the gold to silver ratio through history. So if we go back roughly 5,000 years, more than 5,000 years, the ratio between gold and silver was 1-3, 1-9, 1-2, 1-10. You can see it hovers around 1-10, right? Above and below, maybe 1-15. And it sort of stays that way for 5 millennia. And then here we are today at roughly 1-90, or as I just showed a second ago, 1-80. And basically what that means is silver is extremely undervalued compared to gold on a historical basis. So in order for that ratio to revert, silver would probably have to outperform gold by a factor of 5 or 6, depending. So something to keep in mind. If you think gold is too expensive, might consider silver. Final viewer comment here. I want to see 4K gold by 2025. Okay, well, for those folks who are looking to buy more gold, they don't want to see that, but I get what you're saying. I don't think you're going to see 4K gold before 2025, but you might see it in 2025. So again, if we take the current price appreciation that we've seen so far throughout this year, throughout 2024, actually I have a chart for this, but what we see is that gold is on pace to do about 2925 by the end of the year, so shy of 3,000. But if gold repeats next year what it did in 2024, we will hit $4,000 an ounce before the end of 2025. So that is pretty exciting. And the final chart I have here is the annual return of gold every year. Okay, but it's not in chronological order. It's actually in order of greatest return. So the highest bar here is 1979, where gold's return that year was over 120%. Over 120% in a year. The price more than doubled. Okay, and then the second highest return was 1973. That was over 70%, and so on all the way down. I know the font is a little hard to read. I apologize about that. But I did want to have all the years on here. And so what does 2024 look like in a historical context? Well, that's the blue bar here. So far, gold has done about 33%, which is a phenomenal year, 33% in a year. But the year isn't over. We still have 2 more months. So it's on pace to do another 8% or so. So in total for the whole year, maybe it could hit 41%. It's on pace to hit 41%. And if it does, that would put it in the top 5 of annual returns in the last 54 years. Okay, this goes back to 1970. So what we're experiencing in 2024 is basically the best performance that gold has had, the best annual performance since the decade of the 1970s. If you look at these top 4 years, all 4 of these years were during the 1970s, right? Right after gold became freely traded, it exploded upward. And we've had pretty modest returns until this year, 2024. So this is a big one. And the last time we had returns like this, like for example, 1978, what happened after 1978? 1979. Very good. So what was 1979? Well, that's the top return on this chart. That's when gold more than doubled in a year. So do I think that's going to happen next year? No. Is it possible? I mean, of course it's possible. So we are approaching the upper end of these sort of parabolic moves. So buckle up, folks, buckle up. And the last thing I want to leave you guys with is just a hilarious clip of Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, defending the dollar, right? In this context, gold making record highs. She was asked, are you worried about the strength of the dollar? And look what happens to her podium as she tries to answer that question.
And over a longer time horizon, how concerned are you about the potential impact of the dollar status as the world's reserve currency?